Welcome to the channel rather dubiously called Rufioh. I'm the best Yu-Gi-Oh tuber in my street, a very average player who uses this platform to trick you into thinking I'm good at and capable of playing Yu-Gi-Oh on any kind of level at all. Before we get started, why don't you hit subscribe for me, even if it's not because you secretly enjoy bad content, but because you pity me. I need every bit of help I can get. Hi guys, this is Joe here from Rufioh, bringing you a reaction to the Forbidden Unlimited list. I'm not doing anything live or anything insane. I've actually already seen all of these. This is actually my second take because I recorded it on the wrong thing and it sounded like fucking garbage. So we go with number 2. I'll try to keep my enthusiasm up. Apologies in advance if there are any crazy noises. I live in the world's noisiest house, particularly with 2 annoying dogs. So if you hear anything crazy, it's probably them. Let's go ahead and say it. The changes on this list are absolutely wild. I am so happy. I've been calling for this for a long time. Thank you very much for Konami for hitting this kind of reset that we've been long overdue in the game. There have been decks that have been represented at the top for such a long time and they don't deserve to be there anymore. It's absolutely not cool. I'm glad that you have absolutely Pearl Harbored the fuck out of the meta and we can start this all over again and actually give some other decks a chance of playing. I'm fed up of tournament after tournament of Orcus, fucking Striker. Fuck those decks. I'm glad they're fucking gone. Thank you, Konami. Let's go into the list. There's going to be no spitting in this one. There's not going to be any double fucking backflips. I'm not Team Sam. I'm just here to tell you exactly how I feel about this. And we'll get started with the list right now. So the first forbidden card is Harp Horror. This is quite an interesting one, actually, because I predicted maybe Babel getting hit. Harp Horror to 0. Definitely didn't see that coming. I thought maybe to 1 at a push. Just to kind of slow things down a little bit, but to see it absolutely wiped off the face of the earth certainly does hit Orcus quite hard. That is not to say that the deck is entirely dead, but they have taken an absolute whooping just like the rest of them. Absolutely fine with this if you ask me. Next we see Colossus. This one hurts me a little bit inside. For the longest time I've really enjoyed the Thunder Dragons, but I think it was a necessary hit with the thoughts of how the Master Rule is going to change in a few months' time, and that is something that they need to prep ahead for. But also by hitting all these top decks, I think you naturally give rise to decks like Thunder Dragon to just try and take over the format, and I think that this hit was necessary. Maybe I thought it going to 1. Maybe not banned. I don't really know what Thunder's place really is in the format now. I understand that Titan is still a really strong card, and the actual engine itself is really good. But I think that might be how we see it actually play going down the line. Potentially more as an engine than a pure deck. Who knows? Time will tell. Next we see Electromite getting fucking yeeted off the face of the earth. This makes me happy. Fuck Pendulum. The mechanic is still absolutely broken. You're really not going to miss this guy. I don't care what anyone says. I'm certainly not going to fucking miss him anyway. So go away, Pendulum. This makes me really happy. Next we see Ib getting hit. Ib is one of those cards that I think necessarily hasn't been abused, I think, to the levels that it could have been. Again, I think this is partially preemptive with some of the releases we're going to see down the future, but I think it is one of those cards that the longer it's around, the more likely it is to just get abused down the line. The combos are absolutely insane with it, so I'm kind of glad to see it hit. I'd much rather this hit than some of the other cards that enabled it to be made, stuff like Soul Eating Overraptor and Draconet and that kind of thing, so I'm happy to see it hit rather than them. Did I expect to see it hit just yet? Absolutely not, but am I glad it's gone? Well, I don't fucking care. Next we see Tempest Magician. I'm not really sure. I think that this is because it's got some kind of silly like FTKs and that stuff in there. I'm not really too worried about it, but if it's gone, if it means 1 less FTK in the format, then that's good for me. Next we see Azathoth gone. I'm glad that this is fucking gone. I hate cards like this. I hate cards like Calamities. I hate anything that just sucks all the skill out of the game. Cards like this can go die in a ditch, and Konami can keep fucking getting rid of these for all I care. I'd be super happy to see more of this. Take Kali Yuga with you. Take Calamities next time, please. Let's just get rid of all of those bullshit nonsense cards that just completely cripple your ability to play against a deck that sets up a board. Konami's supposed to be against that. That is the route they've been taking the game, and cards like this going just reinforces that belief that people should be able to play the game. Cards like this, they're no good for that. Next we see Mirage Salio. Not a card I expected to see hit by any means. I thought maybe Spinny to 1 would have been kind of like the middle ground, but I guess they just really didn't want people to play Salads to any capacity because now they just fucking killed that deck too. And again, don't really care. The deck cost me like 10 fucking quid like everyone else on the planet. The deck was super cheap. Okay, sure, you've got good other cards, but they can go into other decks anyway. Your Signettes, your Phantasmes, rejoice. We don't have to deal with Salamangreat anymore. Next on our forbidden list is Brilliant Fusion. Again, another one of those cards that's only ever been used for degenerate reasons. I've never seen anyone use this for anything less than bullshit, so the card going really doesn't bother me. Again, did I expect to see it get banned? Not really. I'm sure that they've got some preemptive ideas in here. Maybe it's some interaction with the Predator Plant link that they're trying to preemptively hit, that kind of thing. Makes sense, I guess, in that respect. So I'm sure it's a good call by Konami. Next, we see Engage. Gone. I'm so glad. Fuck Sky Striker. I thought that they would maybe hit it in such a way that it could still be played as pure, as kind of like a tier 2 strategy or something like that. But they've gone, fuck you, we're just getting rid of you off the face of the planet. We're going to hit your most important card, your fucking +1,000,000, because you just keep recycling the goddamn thing. I'm glad that this is gone. I'm glad that it's going to stop being abused. Fuck Sky Strikers. Fuck this card. I'm a happy guy. Next to one, we see Danger Nessie. This was actually a prediction I'd made before this happened, when they got hit to 2. So I expected actually the big 3 to go to 2. Maybe not Tsuchinoko, because I actually really don't think it's that insane. I think it's actually the weaker of those 3. But Jackalope and Nessie, I thought maybe we'd see both of those go to 1. So Nessie going to 1, kind of not really all that surprising, to be quite honest with you. Probably a little bit overdue. Next we see Pancratops to 1. Not a change I was expecting. Could this be a curb to dinos and that kind of thing going forward? I really don't think that they're going to take over the format. I really think that they wouldn't have done even with this in place. It's become one of those stable cards. Do I think it needs to get hit to 1? Maybe not. I'm sure Konami has their reasons. Hopefully we'll get some clarity in that down the line. Maybe someone's seen something that I haven't seen, but I'm not sure that I needed to see it hit. But it is what it is, and hopefully they've made the right decision. Next we see Servant of Endymion to 1. Again, this is another hit against Pendulum, which again, fuck Pendulum, fuck Endymion. They've still got some really super strong cards. The deck isn't going to fucking die. It's still going to be playable. You still have a mechanic that just says summon everything, so it's going to be absolutely fine. Still going to make some bullshit plays. The Pendulum mechanic is still broken. The deck's not really going to go anywhere, but this does stop it creeping up and taking over the format, which is not something that anybody wants to see. Next we see Litho back. Not something I expected. The Disaster is back. When I looked at this card actually a few months ago, I looked at this in the same limelight as, let's say, Malicious. When I saw Malicious at 2, I thought they'll never bring it back to 3. I actually even had that conversation 3 days before that last list drop where it went back to 3, and I said, Konami will never do it. They're not that stupid. There's not a chance in hell they bring it back to 3. And what did they go and do? They brought it back to 3. And now we have Litho. I looked at this card and I went, this has no place in the modern game. I would love to be able to play it, but it's fucking broken. And what have they done? Gone and shown me up again. They've brought it back to 1. Will it impact the game? I hope so. I certainly intend on playing it in any Dino variants I try out. It's certainly going to be something that I tech in. Really, really cool to see a card this powerful come back into the game. Do I think it's going to warp the format? No. But do I think it'll be a really strong pick? For sure. Next we see Card of Demise to 1. This is one that I think is a little bit overdue. Actually, I thought we were going to see this right after that reprint in the Kyber collections. I think a lot of people sort of banked on that happening, but it's been still running rampant. It's still been absolutely broken in insane decks. We've got stuff like fucking True Draco, which we've just been abusing the shit out of it. Stuff like your Mystic Mind decks and any kind of... I mean, it only ever really gets played in toxic, degenerate tactics, and I don't think that it encourages nice play. Being able to draw 3 with no real drawback, given the kind of decks that it's played in, is just absolutely insane. So this going to 1 doesn't shock me at all. If anything, I think it's a little bit overdue. Next, we see another hit. I think that this is in part to try and hit stuff like Draco from taking over the format. I think that it is one of those decks that thrives when there's kind of uncertainty going on. You just floodgate everyone out the fucking game. So I think Diagram going to 1 is a little bit unsurprising. I mean, they've had it in the OCG at 1, I believe, for a little while now, so to see it go doesn't really shock me at all. Of course, it also means that stuff like Litho is much less broken with that coming back into the game. So I think that that's kind of like a double-edged sword. They kind of tried to address both birds with one stone, I guess. Next, we see Into the Void going to 1. Not at all shocking. I've been reading Road to the King for anyone who follows my social media channels, as you'll know, and I'm sure Patrick Hogan would be absolutely over the fucking moon when people picked up this card and went, fuck it, another 3 Upstart Goblins in my deck. Well, they've hit that to 1 now as well, and it's not really all that shocking. Something that was long overdue, in my opinion. It was always one of those cards that was going to be basically abused at some point or another. It was just a case of what decks would pick up on it first, and that's exactly what we've seen in this format. Next, we see Pot of Avarice come off the list. One of my all-time favourite cards. I absolutely love this. It gives so many decks that just can't harvest their resources for long enough the ability to continue to play. That is something that's really, really important in this game. And a lot of decks have lost that ability to do so with hits that they've had over time and where cards just haven't come back into the fold. Now, I do see there being some potential issues with extra deck monsters going back into the extra deck and being able to draw. I've always been in favour of maybe an errata, which is not something I normally call for, but maybe just that it's main deck only. We'll see how it changes things. Do I think it's going to break the format? Absolutely not. Do I think it's going to be a solid choice in most decks? Absolutely. Next, we see Sekka's Light to 1. This is absolutely not something I expected at all. The card is really, really strong. It only works in a certain variety of decks, so did I expect to see it get hit? Not at all. Is it strong enough to warrant getting hit? Well, I guess if you look at stuff like Pot of Greed, maybe. It has that ability to shuffle back, but it has a lot of restrictions as well. I'm not really too sold on this one at all, but I guess time will tell. The next hit to one that we're seeing is Red Reboot. This is insane. I think Konami is really trying to push people to play these trap-heavy control builds, and I think that this is just another way of encouraging that. Stop people just from OTKing and taking the fun out of the game. It certainly just promotes a bit more of a interactive game type, I think, is what they're going for. I kind of see where they've hit it. Am I happy that they did? Not really. Next, we see our list of 2s. Deep Sea Diva is back to 2. This is hardly shocking at all. Anyone who's got any following of what's coming up in the future releases will know why this card has come off. Certainly expect to see stuff like Mermail spiking in price, especially as a result of this list as a whole. Just expect to see all of those creeping up. If you haven't got them already, now is probably the time to do so. Otherwise, they are going to cost you an absolute fortune. And this card coming off to 2 is going to be insane. Next, we see Tour Guide to 2, another one of my absolute favourite cards. As you all know, I'm an avid BA player. I certainly go through phases each format where I'll play it for at least a few weeks. I really gave up on the deck in a lot of ways after Snow got hit. I think as most people did, the deck saw a massive consistency hit. However, with Tour Guide now going to 2, that's given it a real boost. That's going to be really cool. I'm happy to see this card come off in that way. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. It is still just a normal summon that is usually the first target of a hand trap on this planet. I don't think it's going to break BA, but it is a really nice little boost to them. I wish they'd done a little bit more elsewhere, but it is going to see some possibility of being played in other decks. The next and final one on the semi-limits is Mind Control. Now, this is an interesting choice. Not one I necessarily saw coming, but I do think it's a really powerful card, so I'm kind of not really surprised at the same time. Going to 2, will it make much of a difference? Not really, I don't think. I mean, it's just a consistency hit as always. And next, we look at our absolutely crazy unlimits. This list is big, like, I definitely wasn't expecting this much, and I'm so happy that Konami have done it. We see Dark Arm Dragon going to 3. This is a card that I've wanted off the list for so long now. I feel like it's one of those cards that whenever you resolve it, like you get it on the field and your opponent can't respond, you just win. You straight win, and that's really cool. I like cards that can just bomb out the game like that kind of have these little drawbacks, because keeping 3 Dark Monsters in the grave is actually probably a little bit more difficult to do than it was. We've seen cards like Snow gone. A lot of those grave manipulators are gone in the fact that you're not really trying to control the numbers as much, but I do think it'll still see a good amount of play. A lot of people are probably going to experiment with it, and stuff like Safer really gives it a nice little boost in being able to just make sure you can more consistently see it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this creeping into some of the top decks. Next, we see Lady Debug to 3. Not really surprising that they've wanted to give Cyburst a little boost. We have got Cyburst archetypes. They're going to see a little push forward over the coming format, and I think that giving this back now is absolutely fine. Salad really, as a main deck option choice, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is pretty dead. Can you tell I'm tired? It's dead, and I think that this gives a nice boost to non-degenerate bullshit stuff, and just gives other decks a chance to play Cyber archetypes, that kind of thing, which they seem to be keen to keep pushing. So this just gives them a little touch, and I don't think it's anything too insane. Next, we see Morphing Chart number 2 off the list. A card I definitely didn't expect to see coming off, but again, one that probably could have come off a long time ago. It's really not as strong as it was. I think it could be played in really niche scenarios, and I don't think it's strong enough to warrant being listed in any kind of way. So being at 3, it's going to be absolutely fine. It's probably going to see some experimental play, but I think that's really all we're going to see out of it. Next, we see Damage Juggler off the list. This makes me super happy. I love this card. It's really, really good in Light Sworn and that kind of thing. Anything that just mills and you want to be able to consistently add stuff to hand. It gives you just more options, more summoning methods. It's just a nice card overall. Anyone who plays the card knows that it's good. I really don't think it's broken, and I think seeing it 3 is really, really nice. Next, we see Tribe Infected Virus. So I went out and picked up 1 super copy from Magician's Force. I thought I was absolutely set. I was like, 1 is what it's going to come to. They're going to go through the roof. I'm going to be super happy. And then they put it to 3. Now, do I think 1 would have been reasonable? They didn't really need to do it anyway. It should have been off the list a long time ago. I think that there's way more broken cards in the format. I understand that it's not once per turn, and there's some cool little interaction, like that discard is really, really nice, and it has a little bit of interaction there with some of the other better cards, as we know. But I really don't see the issue with it being at 3, and I really don't think it's going to make that big an impact on the game. Next we see Kagari back to 3. Sky Striker players rejoice, your deck is fucking dead, but I guess you have your links back. Book of Moon to 3. Should have happened a long time ago. Why is it taking this long, Konami? Let's get some more of this shit off the list. PK Rank Up Magic launch. Yeah, it's not going to do anything. Solemn Warning. Now, this is an interesting one. I think that they're trying to push the Solemn Brigade as an option for people to play for those more control-centric decks. I think this is a really cool touch to bring this off the list. I'm happy to see it back, personally. And finally, we see Soul Drain to 3. Now, this is a really interesting one because the card is really, really strong. I've been playing it in Draco the last 2-3 weeks while I've been playing it. And whenever it resolves, it's actually pretty nuts. And I think that this is their way of punishing those decks like Orcust that just completely abuse the graveyard mechanic. This is just going to give them a little bit of a push. And it means they're also going to indirectly hit, well, not indirectly, directly hit stuff like we're going to see Thunder, Striker, Salad, all of those. They all get hit by this maneuver. Will it hit decks going forward as well? Well, I think the graveyard mechanic is here to stay for people who want to abuse that. So this just gives people the ability to play against it in decks where they kind of suffer to that continuous recursion. So to see this back at 3 doesn't shock me at all. I think it's a really cool move. Do I think it'll see a lot of play? Probably not. And that is it for the list, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. These are just my kind of thoughts and ideas on what things may come in the format and my thoughts on the list as a whole. I didn't want to make too many bold predictions on the list because I think there's an awful lot that's going to change over the next few weeks, especially with new product releases and that kind of thing. I think we're going to see stuff like Spiral creeping back in. I think we're going to see Dino creeping back in. I think we're going to see a lot of those rogue decks just pushing up and giving them a chance. And hopefully it's going to see a really cool, balanced, diverse format. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the garbage content I put together for you enough to hit subscribe, and maybe even drop a thumbs up and a comment. Before you go, be sure to check out the links in the description to help support the people who are making this channel a possibility. Thanks again for checking in, and I'll see you in the next one.